Our next contributor looks at the issue of same-sex marriage in Europe. Legislation varies across the continent, and that means laws affecting personal choices about work, healthcare, and even taking vacation time are literally all over the map. Some members of the European Parliament are trying to simply those cross-border policy differences, but it can be a touchy subject. EU TV's Robin Four looks into it.
Mark and Dennis were a couple for 3 years before deciding to make their relationship legal last May with a civil partnership. Under British law, they have the same rights as any other married couple, regardless of sexual orientation.
We obviously saw our relationship, in it for the long run, being together for the rest of our lives. We wanted the stability that getting married would offer us. We want to be able to buy a house, settle down, and possibly even have kids sometime in the future.
While the Lisbon Treaty guarantees the right not to be discriminated against on the basis of sexual orientation, it also leaves family law to the jurisdiction of individual member states. With same-sex marriage recently being introduced in Portugal, 16 countries out of 27 in the European Union now recognise some form of same-sex civil partnership like Dennis and Mark's. But on a legal level, at least 11 member states are likely to deny them the same rights given to an opposite-sex couple. The European Parliament's Committee for Civil Liberties would like to see this change.
The European Union would never accept if a member state would legislate, for example, that Jews cannot marry Catholics or white people cannot marry black people. So why do we accept that national governments interfere in the choice of partner of grown-ups?
10 years after the proclamation of the Charter of Fundamental Rights, the EU is still struggling with certain inequalities, including, some would say, discrimination against people based on their sexual orientation. Now, opinions vary across Europe, as they do here in the European Parliament. If Mark and Dennis chose to move for work or simply for a holiday to another European Union country, especially Italy or Eastern Europe, they stand to lose their cohabitation, parental and next of kin rights.
If you make a commitment living in a particular country, well then it comes under the laws of that country. If you move to another country, what do you say? I must have the same protection or rights as I had in the country where I made that commitment. That just isn't working and doesn't work and cannot work under the system in which we operate.
When it comes to same-sex partnerships like Mark and Dennis's, there seems to be a contradiction between the rights guaranteed by the Lisbon Treaty and the rights of national governments to set the law in their own country. MEP Sophia in 't Veld feels that the situation could be resolved if marriage was treated like any other area where laws across Europe vary, using the instrument of mutual recognition.
That is an instrument that we use for many other things within the internal market, where there is free movement of persons, free movement of goods, free movement of services. And this is a principle which is applied to almost anything. So why not to relationships between people? If a couple is legally married or has a registered partnership in one member state, it should simply be recognized by another member state.
But since the European Charter of Fundamental Rights became binding from last December, the question of how to integrate national and European laws in the area of same-sex civil partnership remains open.
I don't speak French.